Good Monday afternoon to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. You think we have some things to talk about as the Deshaun Watson trade made official? Some movement around the league as well with the quarterback position. Browns bringing in a backup quarterback as well a little later in the show. Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast will join us. We'll talk plenty of Browns. We begin by talking Browns. And the Browns, when the trade was made official yesterday, came out with a statement, and let's take a look. The owners, Jimmy Haslam, said in part, spent a tremendous amount of time exploring, investigating the opportunity to trade for Deshaun Watson, acutely aware and emphatic to our highly personal sentiments expressed about this decision. Our team's comprehensive evaluation process, utmost importance due to the sensitive nature of his situation and the complicated, complex factors that are involved. We understand there is still some legal proceedings that are ongoing. We will respect due process. They had straightforward dialogue on how Deshaun Watson wants to approach his career on and off the field. He was humble, sincere, candid. In our conversations, Deshaun detailed his commitment to lead our team. They wrap up by saying they're confident in Deshaun and excited about moving forward with him as the quarterback and support his genuine and determined efforts. Again, the Browns kind of reiterated that. Tim Bielik, let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. And Tim, the price tag for strictly football things here, 2022 number one. 23 number one, 24 number one, a third in 23, a fourth in 24. The price tag was not as high as you thought it might be. It is 3 firsts and a third and then a fourth. All in all, though, price tag not high. What's your reaction to the Browns' statement as well?
I think it's just, the things they kind of had to say, with regards to Deshaun Watson. I mean, this is a very, very, very complicated thing, with the 22 civil suits pending against Deshaun Watson. There's a lot there that's, still up in the air. Obviously, he hasn't been indicted. He was not going to get indicted. So that was why the Browns and the other teams pursued him. I think what's going to be important for the Browns and Deshaun Watson is how they can make sure that nothing like what happened in Houston happens in Cleveland. It's going to be a lot of things they have to work on to repair his image, to help, again, correct whatever behavior happened. But, from a pure football standpoint, you're right. The price is not too bad, especially when there was talk, it could have been players. It could have been Kareem Hunt if thrown in there. Denzel Ward potentially thrown in there. There were a lot of names being tossed out in the mix for price. But, the fact that they only had to give up the 3 firsts plus a couple of mid-rounders and really only 1 pick in this year's draft, not a bad job as far as values considered by Andrew Berry for a talented quarterback. But, again, there's the red flags, I think, that stick out for a lot of people. And just it's what makes this trade so very, very layered and complex in a lot of ways.
And again, 22 civil lawsuits, no criminal things pending. The grand jury didn't indict him. He continues to give depositions, has one tomorrow where he will give more depositions in those civil lawsuits. And again, we can't tell you how to feel about this. It's a personal thing. Still people working through it, it is the bottom line. One of the things that came out now, the attorney representing those 22 plaintiffs, Tony Busby, says that the Browns and all other NFL teams did not reach out to him to do their due diligence. And, well, of course they didn't, Tim. That's not exactly an unbiased view of what's going on here. You can be sure the NFL teams did their due diligence, and you're not going to talk to the guy who is, painted. I mean, you don't talk to the defense guy. You don't talk to the plaintiff's guy. You do your own investigation. And the NFL teams have people that, in the Browns' cases, have worked for the FBI and other institutions like that. They know what they're doing when they do these background checks.
Exactly. I mean, Tony Busby's clearly, his job is to represent the 22 clients in those cases to the best of his abilities. And Deshaun Watson's attorneys are obligated to represent him and defend him to the best of their abilities. So you're only going to get so much from the lawyers. So I find that interesting. I know that the Browns were getting, beat up for that. The fact that he said not just the Browns, but nobody talked to him sticks out to me, that maybe it wasn't just the Browns that would have been, called out if someone else had traded for Deshaun Watson. Here's the other thing to point out. I can't remember where I heard this from, but I have to imagine that part of the reason they didn't talk to Tony Busby is because if they did, he would have gone out and made a call to somebody, say like, hey, so-and-so has talked to me about, potentially trading for Deshaun Watson or whatever. And the NFL leverages everything. Secrecy is everything when it comes to trade negotiations, all those different things. All those things play a role in, the ability to conceal information, which is what matters. I mean, we thought for about 30 hours between Thursday morning and Friday afternoon that the Browns were completely out of Deshaun Watson. They called Tony Busby. There's always a chance that information gets leaked, and they're saying, "Oh, wait a minute, the Browns aren't completely out of this." Where we know Andrew Berry is kind of working behind closed doors in the dark to make all this work. I know it's a bad look necessarily for the purposes of due diligence, but you're going to do your own investigation to try and get as much unbiased information as possible. I mean, there's the case Watson's people are going to represent. There's the case Busby and his people are going to represent. The reality is we don't know, and it's just going to be interesting to see, what happens with these lawsuits, if Watson settles or what happens after this. It's going to be kind of a interesting process to follow along.
Yeah, and Busby's thing, that's a grandstand move by Busby. I dismissed that one pretty much out of pocket. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one just about the whole Deshaun Watson trade.
Hey guys, I just want to ask your opinion. After the Deshaun Watson signing or trade or whatever, and everybody, after it's been confirmed, and we gave up the picks, and now he's a Cleveland Brown, and everybody's saying, oh, the Browns reek of desperation. That was a desperate move from a desperate team. But at the end of the day, any one of them teams that were in the race were offering the same thing as the Browns were offering. We were all offering draft picks for the guy's services, right? The only thing Cleveland did different was offering more guaranteed money or more guaranteed years. So that makes us desperate. I feel like if it was been any other team, they would have been, oh, that was a great move for them. I think it was a great move for the Browns. So I don't think it's desperate. I think it's a team who wants to win now. Just like the Rams give up their picks, the Browns just gave up some money. So go Browns.
Yeah, and again, we appreciate all the voicemails. We've got a lot of them. We won't be able to get all the ones we had to today, but we will continue to use them throughout the week. I think it's a sign that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski realize NFL is not for long. If you do not win, you're not going to have these jobs. There's 32 of them, 32 general managers, 32 head coaches. It is a win-now league.
Absolutely it is. And I mean, I know there's going to be controversy about who got Deshaun Watson, whether it was the Browns or somebody else. But the reality is, once he was cleared of legal charges, once the grand jury said he wasn't going to indict him, there were so many teams, obviously, that were in the mix. And I mean, if you didn't get him, someone else was going to. Someone else was always going to be willing to take the hit. So many teams were willing to take the hit because, again, the quarterback position just means so much. If you have an elite one, a top 5, top 10 guy, your chances of winning the Super Bowl just go up dramatically from where they would if you didn't have that. And I think what we've seen with the Browns, the last couple of days, I mean, yeah, it's desperation, but if you have a chance to get a top flight quarterback, you do whatever it takes to do it because, again, if you don't, like you said, if you don't win in the NFL, you're going to get replaced by somebody who will. And just the opportunity to get that quarterback, of course you're going to be desperate. I mean, that's the difference between getting a big name, like a Deshaun Watson, or settling for a Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, the difference is going to be the Browns are now in Super Bowl contention for, the next 5 potentially to 10 years versus if they traded for Garoppolo, where you still don't know who the guy is. Garoppolo has a ceiling, and it's not Super Bowl winner. So, I mean, again, it's about getting that guy. And, I go back before to how much I think Joe Burrow, what he did with the Bengals, to me, changed the calculus of how to evaluate, how to win in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, quarterback by far the most important position, and the Browns feel like they got a good one. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We're trying to provide a balanced picture of everything here. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, again, about Deshaun Watson.
Yep, the Browns just messed up. If they're bringing in Deshaun Watson, I'm 62 years old, lifelong Browns fan. I'm done.
All right, and again, I understand people pushing back, and we're trying to give you an unbiased and full picture of everything. So the 22 allegations are they're not good. You know what? Here's the other thing, Tim. So it's human nature to remember things that are the most recent. With Deshaun Watson, most recent things that we're hearing about are these 22 civil lawsuits for various allegations that are against him. If any of them are found to be true, it's pretty serious. It's not good. In an effort to provide a complete picture of Deshaun Watson, though, as recent as 2017, the NFL was saying how lucky the Texans were to have Deshaun Watson, and what a great face of the franchise he was. Back then, Hurricane Harvey hit. Everybody, including myself, said, man, this kid Watson gets it. He donated his first NFL game check to 3 cafeteria workers who were severely impacted in Houston by Hurricane Harvey. Kind of destroyed some of their homes. They lost a lot. Take a look. This is back in 2017, Deshaun Watson's rookie year.
I feel good. I'm excited to do a little surprise for the cafeteria ladies. That's been helpful for all of us, so it's gonna be cool. Hey, how are y'all? For what y'all do for us every day and never complain. I really appreciate y'all. So I wanted to give my first game check to y'all to help y'all out some type of way. So here you guys go.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Can I give
No
you a
problem.
hug?
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
no problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you very
No
much.
problem. Hopefully that helped. Shouldn't be. So hopefully that's good to help you get you back on your feet, and anything else y'all need, I'm always here to help. So no problem. No problem. Thank you.
Again, Tim, I'm not minimizing anything of the accusations that have been made of him, but the guy has done some good things prior to this most recent, allegations against him.
Absolutely. And I'm a person who believes that, you never know, someone's not always like your opinion. Someone is like, could be not as good as their best, or not as great as their best and not as bad as their worst. The reality is usually always somewhere in the middle. And, obviously that was a really cool gesture by Deshaun Watson, way back. I mean, guy who was just starting his NFL career. He understood kind of what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people out. And I mean, even going back to Clemson, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of negatives on his character profile, the kind of the ideal personality you want out of your quarterback. And I think with the way the Browns, have approached this the last few days, again, I think the key is going to be, just helping him make sure that what happened, with these lawsuits and the things he's accused of, that they don't happen again to him. Whether that means, therapy or whatever, or counseling, all these different things he could do to repair his image and help him out, help his standing out in the community. Those are going to go a long way. It's going to take a long time, because they always say trust is grown in drops but lost in buckets. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the phrase a little bit, but you kind of get the idea there. That
We always butcher phrases here. We're good. Well, I mean, the bottom line is, again, we are trying to give you a complete picture, and I get it. I'm not telling people how to feel. I want you to know the full picture of things, and then you decide for yourself. Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear just how good some people think Deshaun Watson is under center as the quarterback. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to try-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns and their new quarterback, Deshaun Watson, here on Sports for CLE. We're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Again, this one about the Browns making this trade.
This is Vernell, longtime Browns fan, relocated to Atlanta area. Listen, today I could not be any more proud to say that I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Finally, we have a group of people there that say, I am not going to settle for mediocrity. I don't care what happened over the last 20-plus years and how many names you go down the back of the jersey or who was the quarterback, guy who happened to be the quarterback when we won the playoff game. We're going to just stick with him because we haven't won anything. That would be so Cleveland. But Andrew Berry said, I'm not going to be so Cleveland anymore. I'm going to go out there and I want to win. We're not the same team. We will take a chance. And he actually gambled and won.
Well, he did spend a lot of money to win, but did what was needed. So, Tim, that money that is guaranteed, $240 million, there are some people around the league that are not too happy that all that money is guaranteed. But you know what? Browns have a quarterback that they view as a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, this definitely is going to change, the quarterback market for a little bit. I guarantee guys like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, they're probably sitting back seeing that number, maybe smile a little bit, thinking that they got a little bit of an upper hand in some of these negotiations, maybe even Kyler Murray of the Cardinals. But, from a pure football standpoint, this is a slam dunk move for the Browns to get themselves a quarterback upgrade from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson. And the thing that I've been saying for months is if you were going to move on from Baker, it had to be a very clear upgrade. And Deshaun Watson is a very clear upgrade. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. You look at look at 2020, the Texans went 4-12. Deshaun Watson threw for almost 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. They weren't bad because of Deshaun Watson. He was the only reason they were even in most of those games to begin with. That game when the Texans were in Cleveland in the wind tunnel at First Energy Stadium, they were only in that game because Deshaun Watson kept them in that game. He's that good. The Texans really, bungled an opportunity by trading so many key pieces away, Jadeveon Clowney, DeAndre Hopkins virtually for nothing. And the Browns get a guy who was among the best quarterbacks in football, and you add him to a roster that is already extremely deep and talented, especially on the offensive line, in the backfield, and on defense, particularly in the back seven. So this is, from a pure football standpoint, maybe the best chance the Browns have had to win a championship. I know we've said that, a couple times since Baker Mayfield got drafted, but this time it feels more for real than maybe any point since the 60s.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. To your point, Deshaun Watson is viewed as an elite quarterback by the people nationally that talk about those things. Take a listen to Dan Orlovsky on ESPN's First Take.
There's not a quarterback that you sit there and go, that guy's unequivocally a better player. He's just been in a really bad situation in Houston. His tape is out of this world. Stephen A., in 2020, Deshaun Watson completed over 70% of his passes and had over 8.5 yards an attempt. Now, for everybody at home, that matters because when you're completing a high clip of passes, 70+%, oftentimes it could be because you're just throwing the ball short. Those are easy. When you're going 8.5 yards per attempt, that oftentimes will lead the NFL. There's been 4 other guys in the history of the league who have done that, okay? Again, 8.5 yards per attempt or more, 70% completion percentage. It was last year Joe Burrow, he went to the Super Bowl. It was 2009 Drew Brees, he went to the Super Bowl. It was 1994 Steve Young, he went to the Super Bowl. It was 1989 Joe Montana, he went to the Super Bowl. When Deshaun Watson did it in 2020, they were 4-12. That's a bad football team.
Yeah, you talked about that. that right there by Dan Orlovsky illustrates how little was around Deshaun Watson in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, if Watson's on that team, maybe you're looking at the third 0-16 team in NFL history. I don't think that's that far of a stretch to take with how bad that Houston Texans team was in 2020. And, I mean, it's easy to forget, obviously, because of that and because he didn't play last year, just how good Deshaun Watson is. And I think there's a little hidden bonus to the fact that he didn't play a year ago. There's a little thing, and I'm looking at the numbers. In 4 seasons with the Texans, this includes the injury-shortened 2017 season, Deshaun Watson was sacked 174 times. That's about 43 a year minimum. 62 of those came in 2018. His first full season when he was a Pro Bowler, threw for 4,100 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Despite how many times he got hit, still put up very good numbers. Obviously in Cleveland with this offensive line, although there are questions about, Jack Conklin's health, Jedrick Will's top flight potential, this is a far better offensive line than what he had in Houston, and a far better running game, which should take a little more pressure off him, particularly in play action. He should get hit a lot less. And, for any quarterback, when you don't take hits for a year, body probably feels pretty good. And I'm sure, not getting hit for more than a year, Deshaun Watson probably is going to be, I would imagine he's going to be in pretty good shape for these offseason workouts.
Yeah, and I would imagine he's going to really enjoy turning around and hand the ball to Nick Chubb. He's never played with a guy like that. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Andrew Berry and the moves that he has made.
Hey, guys. I remember calling you about a week or so ago, and I said to you, every year that Andrew Berry's been the general manager, he's made a big splash as the GM, starting with, bringing Conklin and then, getting John Johnson III and Troy Hill and all that. And, well, I guess when I brought this question to you, then it was, Amari Cooper. But I think this trumps it as the biggest move he's made so far. So good for Andrew Berry. Go Browns. And let's just keep up and hope we just acclimates to wins. Go Browns.
Yeah, it's hard not to say that a franchise-type quarterback is not a splash move. But when you look at it, Tim, you and I have talked about this a number of times on the show. Browns needed to upgrade the passing game substantially. Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper, those two alone do that.
No question about it. I mean, you get a potential top 5 quarterback and a true number 1 receiver in Amari Cooper. I mean, nothing short of an upgrade, even though we don't know what else is going to happen. Obviously, Austin Hooper is going to be let go. We don't know if Jarvis Landry is going to be back. And, I mean, there's still plenty of time and plenty of cap space to make moves. I mean, they've been linked to bringing Jarvis Landry back. They've been linked to Will Fuller. We know with the second-round pick they still have, they could still get a really good receiver. I've talked endlessly just about how deep this class of receiver is, particularly in the first 2 to 3 rounds. They could get a really good receiver there if they want to go address that need in the draft. But, the work they've done already is it's a quantum leap forward. Now all of a sudden you have a passing game, at least at quarterback, and with the number 1 receiver that you can compete with the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Bills as far as having a top-tier passing game, which you really need in the playoffs. You need a passing game that, when the defense knows you're going to pass and they still can't stop it, that you can still hit big plays. That's when you can do some things. And the Browns really have not had anything like that for a passing game, at least since the 80s with Bernie Kosar, and, guys like Webster Slaughter and Brian Brennan, all those guys, Ozzie Newsome. This could be better than that because just Deshaun Watson, you could argue he's right up there with the league's best quarterbacks. And it's going to be fascinating to see how they build around him, not just this year, but for the years down the road.
All right, some other news on quarterbacks. So Jacoby Brissett will be signing a 1-year deal, $4.5 to $4.65 million is the number for Brissett. The Browns also traded Case Keenum yesterday to the Bills for a 7th-round pick. So Brissett in, Case Keenum out. And Tim, Brissett is kind of critical because that's a guy that could have to play 4, 5, 6, 7 games based on what the league ends up doing with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and it's a low-key, fairly savvy move by Andrew Berry. I mean, I look at Brissett and what he does. He's almost like a poor man's Deshaun Watson. They play a similar style. They're both quarterbacks who are mobile. Brissett's obviously bigger at 6'4" compared to Deshaun Watson 6'2", but Brissett's a guy who's at least very solid. I'd say he's a higher end backup quarterback. He can certainly, I think, hold the fort down for 4 to 6 games, maybe even 8, depending on how long the NFL decides to suspend Deshaun Watson, if indeed he does get a suspension. But it's not a bad thing. Also, it frees up about an extra, I think, $3-4 million in cap space. The numbers I don't think have officially kind of come out for that. But, just another, again, a savvy move by Andrew Berry, continue to manipulate cap space, manufacture it, just the restructuring of guys like Amari Cooper, among others, just all these things to continue to make this passing game fresh and strong. And with Brissett, you at least got a guy who can, he's not going to wow anybody for the games that Deshaun Watson's going to be potentially suspended, but he's a guy who should do just enough to hold the fort down until Watson comes back.
And I think the key thing is something you said earlier. They're very similar styles, so you don't have to change the offense for him completely. It's not like this offense works for him, but it doesn't work for him. Again, it's kind of matching your skill sets between your quarterback and your backup quarterback. Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will continue to talk about Deshaun Watson. Also kind of take a look into what else the Browns might do. We'll have some voicemails, Truth and Reason, Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Browns and expectations.
Hey. Browns fans forever. 67 years old. I'm finally able to really believe that I'll see the Browns in the Super Bowl before I die.
And that kind of tells you a little bit about the optimism, Tim. I've heard that repeatedly now, that the Browns are Super Bowl contenders. We heard that last year, so we got to keep that in that perspective. But you do have a quarterback who is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, I've talked already about, just where Deshaun Watson stands kind of in the hierarchy of NFL quarterbacks. The thing to remember is, even if it doesn't happen, there's always a chance it might not happen this year, just because, if Watson's suspended, then, the record might not be as good, because you still got to knock the rust off of Deshaun Watson since he didn't play all of 2021. He's got to get used to Kevin Stefanski's offense, how he might adjust it based on Watson's abilities and who the Browns could add in the next several months with free agency and the draft. There's a lot of adjusting that's going on. So my advice to Browns fans would be, if it doesn't happen this year, don't panic. It's okay. Everything's not going to happen necessarily right away. Best chance might be, in 2023, when Deshaun Watson, has experience in the system, more chemistry with his weapons, all those different things. If the Browns are able to get to the Super Bowl, anything can happen, because, again, it's just, this is a team that seems like it was a quarterback away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Watson plays the way he's played in the past. If he plays like that coming off suspension, they can certainly get in the playoffs and make a lot of noise. It's just going to be fascinating to see where it goes. It's not just going to be a one-year ride, though. It's going to be, I think, potentially 10 based on how well he does. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. And, again, it would absolutely not be a shock if the Browns aren't playing in at least one Super Bowl. That's how good Deshaun Watson is.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna check in. Dan Orlovsky said this. He thinks that Deshaun Watson is a guy who makes players around him better.
What can he do, or what can other guys do with their game that Deshaun can't? We've got to get out of this world in the NFL of, like, who's the top 5 quarterback. We don't have 5 top quarterbacks. We've got 10 quarterbacks in the league. This is a new era in the NFL. There are not 5 elite. There is no top 5. There's 10. There are 10 guys at that position in the NFL that they're all the same, that you can win many games and Super Bowls because of them. There's not a guy in the NFL on the field, talent-wise, that is just flat out better than Deshaun Watson.
You're wrong. Aaron Rodgers is better.
No, he's not. No,
Yes,
he's
he
not.
is. Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
What?
Yes, he is.
Oh, how?
No. Excuse
How?
me. I don't have to. He's a reigning 2-time league MVP, and I continuously throw out numbers over and over and over again about him, as have you.
And Tim, the key is now Watson did have Hopkins, so that he's played with some really good wide receivers. Never had the line, never had the running game, but the key thing that he is a guy you can win Super Bowls because of. Those are the franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, it's part of the AFC arms race we've seen, develop throughout this year with the Bengals and Joe Burrow, just how they've emerged. Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, the way the Raiders have loaded up, giving Derek Carr, Devontae Adams as the number one receiver. You still got Patrick Mahomes over there in Kansas City, who has shown he is human. I think that's the biggest thing that could help out some of these competitors is they've seen, Mahomes be way too much of a gambler at times, really the first time in his career. So I kind of agree with Dan that this is a very wide open conference. It could come down to simply who has home field advantage and who's hot at the right time. And it could be a thing where, just because you have the best team doesn't mean you go as far as you need to. Injuries always play a factor, how you draft and those surprising contributions from rookies or second-year players, undrafted guys, those play roles. There's so many factors that go into how far a team goes besides just having the quarterback, but the quarterback is definitely the biggest piece. And the Browns clearly, at least on paper right now, and based on the way Deshaun Watson has played throughout his career, it seems like they have it solved. It just kind of has to manifest itself on the football field.
Yeah, if you don't have a guy that is a franchise quarterback, one of those guys that you can win because of, you're usually trying to find them. And the Browns feel like they found one. All right, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. And this one kind of asking, what's next?
Hey, guys, how are you? Just have a quick question, maybe your opinion. So with the acquisition of Deshaun Watson coming to Cleveland, we got Amari Cooper. We made an offer to Jadeveon Clowney. Where do the Browns go now in free agency? Because I feel like we made some moves, but we were kind of waiting to see what was going on with if they were going to get Deshaun or what was going on. But now that they land their quarterback, they get their receiver, Amari Cooper, they offer Jadeveon Clowney a contract. What do we do next? Go Browns.
All right, and Tim, let's take a look at a Mary Kay Cabot tweet. So the Browns restructured Amari Cooper's contract to save $15 million in cap space. So they could potentially re-sign Jarvis Landry. They're trying to convince Jadeveon Clowney to get on it and sign on the dotted line. The other thing, and you alluded to this, here's another tweet from Jordan Schultz. Will Fuller, who Deshaun Watson has played with, mutual interest between Fuller and the Browns, and you see the numbers. Fuller had some productive years with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is a guy that other guys will want to play with, that receivers will want to play with, and you might get them to take a little bit less money because they feel like they can showcase what they have with Watson. So those are all interesting points. If you were going to guess, where do you think they go? I think they want to get Clowney done because they got to work on that defensive line right now.
Yeah, I think that's got to be priority number one, is fixing that second edge rusher spot opposite Myles Garrett. Obviously, with not having the first round pick anymore, it probably puts the pressure on them to go out and sign, Jadeveon Clowney or sign Zadarius Smith or trade for Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. I think if they can get Clowney, though, he's already shown he's a really good complement to Myles Garrett. If they can get him for, a couple of years at a reasonable price, it kind of works out pretty well. Because again, I'm looking at the cap numbers for the Browns. Over the cap has them about $26.3 million in space, and that's also, not to forget as well, if they trade Baker Mayfield, if they're able to offload his contract, that frees up almost $19 million more. So you could easily fit, Jadeveon Clowney in that space, and with receiver, maybe they bring Jarvis Landry back on a discount. Maybe, again, Will Fuller comes in. And don't forget as well, They did also sign Jakeem Grant, who I think can, be a bit of a gadget player. He's an explosive guy you can get the football to, and he can make some things happen. Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz, I think, should benefit very well from having a very good quarterback to play with. I think they got a chance to really take steps forward. I think this is, the time to strike. This is the time to really go for it. Try and get a big name, maybe two, to round this out, and then build forward. Try and get a couple more key cogs to the draft. Maybe you trade up from 44 to get another key piece, whether it's for 2022 or the future. There's a lot of ways Andrew Berry can go, and I'm fascinated to see the direction in which he takes that next step.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we turn our attention a little bit towards the draft coming up. Browns don't have a number one pick. Still have a bunch of picks, though. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Tim Bielik and I continue talking Browns. We're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one, a NFL draft-related question.
Hi, Dave. I need your opinion. What do you think of George Pickens, wide receiver, Georgia State, and Christian Watson, North Dakota State? Thank you.
And again, we appreciate all the voicemails. And Tim, your thoughts on those two? Those are guys that, in theory, would be available second, third round, maybe even. Remember, the Browns do have, in addition to the second, they have 2/3. They have the compensatory pick from the guy signing as the general manager at Delphi, Mensa, signing with the Vikings as their GM. There you see the numbers that are available. But to the question, what do you think about Pickens and Watson?
I would kind of give the edge to Pickens there, partially, for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's only 21 years old. He just turned 21 at the beginning of March. Christian Watson's a guy who was going to be 23 years old before his first training camp. Birthday is May of 1999, so that's already 2 years older. Pickens has played in the SEC. He's had some injury issues, including missing most of the 2021 season with a torn ACL, but he came back towards the end, had some nice plays in the playoffs for Georgia. And, when he was healthy, he was pretty productive. And he's got a very interesting frame as well. 6'3", 200 pounds. Again, productive, maybe a little inconsistent, but still a young guy. And as we know from Andrew Berry, he loves going with younger players. That's kind of where he's been throughout his brief drafting tenure with the Browns, is he's leaned more towards the younger players. So I think if they stayed at 44, Pickens would be a very interesting bet because, even just frame-wise, is not necessarily a guy the Browns have. Maybe there's some similarities between him and Donovan Peoples-Jones, I guess, because of frame. But I think Pickens is a little more developed than Peoples-Jones. And Pickens' production, I think there's some questions about, after 2019, but Georgia had some serious quarterback questions. I mean, it took them a while. It took them a while to really find a guy and kind of stick with one. And it wasn't until the playoff that really Stetson Bennett showed how good he is. So Pickens has had some quarterback problems. Not going to happen if he's a Brown because of Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and I get where the question is going, and I like the thought process behind it. Browns do need to add to that wide receiver room. All right, how did the Watson trade kind of alter draft thinking, and where do you think the Browns are going, Tim?
Well, obviously, they're going to have might have a quiet Thursday night. It's been a while since we have seen the Browns be quiet on Thursday night. I mean, we remember the days when they had 3 first-round picks, or when they picked first and fourth way back in 2018. Obviously not scheduled to pick until 44, but I look at what they have pick-wise. They got 8 in this draft. I wonder if they trade up back into the first round, say they jump Green Bay and Tampa Bay in Kansas City to try and get another receiver. Say Jahan Dotson's there. Say Jamison Williams is there. I know I've said before that maybe Jameson would be the guy to be passing on more because of the injury thing. I think the Deshaun Watson factor changes it a little bit, because if you have a guy who's like a stopgap for a year, say you sign Will Fuller, there's no pressure to play Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, no pressure to play Jameson Williams right away. You could let him sit and heal and get him ready for 2023. And I look at this team, you don't necessarily need 8 rookies on it. This would probably be a good time, I think, for Andrew Berry to trade up. And if they stay at 44, watch if David Ajabo falls. I would be very interested in him. I mean, he tore his Achilles in his pro day, awful injury. You know, you feel horrible for him. This is a guy I thought that had top 15 potential. I don't know if he would slide to 44, but if he does and he's there for the Browns, I would be very interested. I mean, again, a guy that you wouldn't need to play right away. You can draft him, let him heal, get him ready for 2023, get him in, to the pro system, get him acclimated to your scheme, the way you do things, and then kind of turn him loose once he gets healthier. And I mean, we saw how Grant Delpit played coming off his torn Achilles. He didn't play, obviously, as a rookie, came back in 2021. I thought he played very well. So, torn Achilles is not, a death sentence for draft prospects. You can come back from it, be successful, and it's going to be fascinating to see where the Browns go with it. I would imagine maybe potentially more aggressiveness, knowing that now you are officially fully in the championship window if you're the Browns.
All right, so the question becomes, what do the Browns do with Baker Mayfield? Let's take a look. ESPN has an article about the best fits for Baker Mayfield, and they say the best fit is the Seattle Seahawks. Bill Barnwell is guessing the Browns would be looking at potentially a third-round pick, likely in 2023. Important to note, today the quarterback market and the Baker Mayfield market kind of keeps shrinking. So the Colts traded a third-round pick to the Falcons to get Matt Ryan. The Falcons signed Marcus Mariota to a 2-year contract. The Saints signed Jameis Winston to a 2-year contract. So logically, the only 2 spots that are still in that we might need a starting quarterback, Carolina Panthers, Seattle Seahawks, who have Drew Lock. There was also some reports, Jason Lockenfora said the 49ers could be a landing spot. That would obviously be as a backup to Trey Lance, though. Do you think the Browns can get, a third-round pick, a second-round pick for Mayfield? It's going to be tough because of his contract.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because of the contract. I think it's more term than the cap hit. I mean, $18.8 million seems like a lot, but for quarterbacks, not really a lot of money. I think it just comes down to the fact that you'd be getting a guy for a year, essentially a rental. I think that's kind of what would more be putting teams off on Baker more than, what they would have to pay him, number one. And number two, like you said, obviously the options drying up. The Seahawks, at least they're putting it out there that they seem to like Drew Lock. I would almost rather have Baker Mayfield at quarterback than Drew Lock at quarterback. And I mean, if Seattle would be an interesting fit because they do have a very good run game with Chris Carson at running back, 2 very good receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Obviously, I don't know how he would do in kind of the weather in Seattle. It'd be interesting, but I think it could be a good fit for him, a chance to get a fresh start. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, what happens. Carolina seems like they definitely could get into the mix because this is how desperate they've been to get a quarterback. I mean, they traded a bunch to get Sam Darnold last year. It didn't work. Do they want to do it again? Do they want to take another shot on a veteran, take a flyer on Baker Mayfield, or do they wait in the draft and take Malik Willis at number 6 overall or something like that? I mean, if they might have to worry about that in case the Detroit Lions decide to take a quarterback at 2nd overall. Those are the questions right now, I think, that have got to be going on in those offices all around the NFL where those teams are looking for a quarterback. Right now it looks bleak for Baker, but all it takes is one phone call from a GM who's just desperate enough to make a deal and Andrew Berry to say, okay. But I think the big thing is got to find a way to get something for him to get that cap hit off if you're the Browns, so you can kind of continue to reload this team and give them a shot to win as early as possible, maybe even this season.
Tim Bielik, as always, Tim, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tim.
Got it. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good day.
All right, Tim Bielik, make sure you read him, pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to continue talking Browns. Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast up next. Stay with us on Sports for CLE.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to try-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking to Browns. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Andrew Berry and his job getting the Deshaun Watson deal done.
Hi, Dave. John, Northwest Ohio. Longtime Cleveland fan. I'm all in on the Browns-Watson trade. Lost confidence in Baker last year. He's not elite. Watson is, in my opinion. Kudos to the Haslams and Berry. Watson was going to get a second chance anyway. Might as well let him take us to the Super Bowl. Thanks. Bye.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast. Kevan, let's not make it seem strictly a football perspective here. Let's not make it seem like the Browns were the only team that was doing this. They were competing with 4 other teams. They were willing to pony up a boatload of money to get it done. It shows you how important it is to win now and how important the quarterback position is.
It's arguably the most important position in all of sports. So, you know, there was an upgrade that was needed, and we all know that. But you guys kind of mentioned it between you and Bielik earlier on the show that, you know, some people just still can't see that. They can't sift through those emotions yet of this move from the off the field standpoint to see what the Browns were actually trying to do. And, you know, through the articles that have come out today by Jason Lloyd of The Athletic and Albert Breer on SI, you know, you see how much work that the Browns put into this, but also that, you know, it's the quarterback. They got to get it right. They feel like they have the roster ready to go, and they feel like they had to go out, get it right, and they did that. Even when they were told no, you know, they were able to, Andrew Berry was able to keep kind of talking with Watson's agent and saying that they were still interested. And by the next day, Watson was saying, you know what, I'd rather go to the Browns and kind of go to a new environment than where I'm comfortable down here in the southern part of the United States of America.
Yeah, and we've been taking a look at some national perspective, just how good Deshaun Watson is. We're going to go back, take a listen to Stephen A. Smith about what Deshaun Watson brings to a team.
You put Deshaun Watson on any team, they're a Super Bowl contender. On
So
any
how
of those
can
good
you
teams.
sit here?
Any of those good teams. Any of those
So
good
how can
teams.
you sit here and say that any of those quarterbacks are better?
I'm just saying that Aaron Rodgers. Hold up, we're talking Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes. When you think about the top quarterbacks in the National Football League, those 3 names are going to come up first. That's
so
what I'm saying.
If I took Deshaun Watson and I put him on the Kansas City Chiefs right now, do you still have the same view of the Kansas City Chiefs as you do when they have Patrick Mahomes?
I still do, but in the same breath, I've seen Deshaun Watson perform very well in the playoffs, and I've seen him tail off in the playoffs. What I'm saying to you is that just because I might see him in that light doesn't mean that he would specifically do what Patrick Mahomes has done.
Kevin, that's a good exercise. If you put Baker Mayfield in the Kansas City Chiefs offense, could you see him doing the same things as Patrick Mahomes? That's the way you got to look at this when you're trying to judge elite quarterbacks.
Right, and as of right now, you would say maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't have as high of a ceiling with the Kansas City Chiefs with Baker Mayfield based on what we saw in 2021. But 2020 Baker, you'd probably put that on Baker Mayfield. So sometimes trying to do these comparisons, between maybe if you put one guy here and one guy there, would you still consider them the same as you do this quarterback? I understand the conversations, but sometimes they get convoluted, especially with what Baker Mayfield went through last year. Again, I agree that the Browns needed an upgrade at quarterback. And Deshaun Watson, from a football standpoint, if we're just going to look at it football-wise, he definitely gives the Browns a much better chance of being Super Bowl contenders than did Baker Mayfield. I myself still have reservations, and I still can't get too deep into the football conversation or what could be with the football side of things because of everything off the field. That's how I feel, and other people feel differently, which is totally fine. But yes, Dave, in football standpoints, Watson does give the Browns a good shot. And that's why they did this, to go out and try to win a Lombardi trophy.
And again, I cannot tell anybody how to feel about what the Browns have done, the off-the-field stuff. I get it. I have 3 daughters that are between the ages of 20 and 25. So I more than most understand people's thoughts like that. And again, the only thing I would say is Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and the Haslams, they realize if they don't win, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski aren't going to have the jobs they have. NFL, not for long, and you better win. All right, let's go back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one just about the Browns in general here.
Yes, I'm a 50-year-plus fan of the Cleveland Browns, and I'm done. I'm going to trade the Browns just like they trade everybody else, regardless of the, as you say, your voice of truth and reason. It seems that our Browns leadership, management, the Haslam Group, don't seem to understand that truth and reason matter. And when you tell the fans, yep, Baker's going to get another year, he's going to be our starter in 22, he's going to be playing, we can bet on it, he can bet on it, and then turn around and lie to us one more time because a nice shiny toy popped up in front of Haslam and he just had to go have it? Okay, well, you keep it up, you do all your trading, because guess what? I'm trading the Browns. Yep, I spend money, I buy shirts, I buy things for my family, I go to every local game in my area when they're playing. They play here twice a year. And I'm just tired of that group. So hopefully one day we'll trade ownership and then I can come back. But in the meantime, Cleveland, you're traded.
All right, as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. And I get where he's going with that. Now, the one thing I will say, the Browns came out and told Baker Mayfield if they could find an elite quarterback, they were going to pursue him. That was made really clear. So when Deshaun Watson was cleared of the criminal investigation, there were the Browns, the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, all went after him. An elite quarterback, a clear upgrade. So that it didn't just come out of nowhere. That's a little bit of revisionist there. They did tell Baker Mayfield they were going to try to find an elite quarterback, or if they could not acquire an elite quarterback, he would be their quarterback in 2022.
Yeah, whether, how Baker and his camp took that, all that kind of stuff, those are, probably conversations and news that'll come out later on. A little bit of, more truth and reason for our voicemailer, and an unfortunate for what he's looking for. This is not new in the NFL, where what they told us when they're in their press conferences, where Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were adamant that Baker Mayfield was their guy. They may have been saying that because they didn't feel like they had a chance at any of these elite quarterbacks that they told Baker they would go after But they said that, and every other NFL team has said that. I believe even Seattle mentioned Russell Wilson and not getting rid of him. But it's been countless cases of that. And then when those opportunities exist, they're trying to make the team better, and they go out and they make those moves even when they said that. If the caller wanted them to be different and thought they were different from how they've acted the last 2 years, I totally understand that. I definitely see where he's coming from in that. Unfortunately, they're just like the rest of the NFL with all of this. So that's the unfortunate truth and reason with this. But again, it's another person with another perspective that, there's people out there that feel very similar and not wanting to be Browns fans because of making this move. And it's not just football related.
Yeah, and Kevan, Arnold, again, we're going to step aside, take a quick time out. But again, we're trying to give you a complete picture, not telling you how to feel. You feel how you want. We give you the information, digest it, and make your own decisions. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. When we return, stay with us on Sports for CLE.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns with Kevan Arnold. We're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, just a quick comment. As a 50-year Browns fan, I suspect I will be in the minority with my thoughts that Deshaun Watson is now the face of the Cleveland Browns. After reading the Sports Illustrated article based on an interview with one of Watson's massage therapists, and significantly, one who is not part of the 22 civil lawsuits against him for sexual harassment and thus has no financial incentive to lie, it is clear his character is not one of integrity. I dare say that if Vladimir Putin was also a franchise caliber quarterback, Haslam and the Browns management would be willing to make him the face of the franchise. Thank you.
And as always, we appreciate the voicemail of Truth and Reason and our voicemailers. Kevan, I kind of said this, and I don't mean to be flippant with it. If Vladimir Putin was a franchise quarterback, would the Haslams be negotiating with him? They'd have to beat the Commanders, the Colts, the Saints, the Falcons, and anybody else who's trying to find a franchise quarterback as well. That's just the way that's the business.
That is the business, and that's kind of the business of the NFL, unfortunately. And I think we're at times, and people kind of use this on one side of the argument that, this is how the NFL is, that people turn a blind eye. And, if you have the talent, especially at the quarterback position, people are going to want you. The Browns had to compete with several teams still to get Deshaun Watson, even though the amount of teams for the talent that Deshaun Watson has was probably fewer than some would expect. They still had to compete against other teams and teams that were in a region that he was much more familiar with. So they really had to make a case, and they made him rethink those decisions. Now, in terms of the NFL and turning a blind eye, the Browns are not the only team that's ever done that, and they probably won't be the last. But I think that, the people that use that as an argument that it is the way that it is, and they're going to keep watching NFL football just because, that's just going to keep happening. I think there's conversations moving forward that we also need to have about, it's not enough to just turn a blind eye. Sometimes we still need to look at it and look at the humanity and morality side of things. That still needs to come in the conversation about how the NFL deals with these things on a much more consistent and better scale moving forward. But of course, those conversations after we get through kind of what the Browns are going to be dealing with once they hopefully eventually bring Deshaun Watson out, or some of them get in front of a press conference in the media.
All right. So, again, in an effort to give you a complete picture, and we did a little bit of this earlier in the show, there's a recency bias. I am in no way excusing any of the claims against him. There are 22 civil claims for sexual harassment against Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was also a guy that's really involved in the community in a good way, has done a lot of good things. One thing that is close to him, Habitat for Humanity. When he was a young kid, his mom, his family, he's from a single mother family, they were part of a house that was given to them that they earned Habitat for Humanity. That is something that is near and dear to his heart. That's one of the organizations that he supports. Let's take a look at this on Deshaun Watson.
Growing up before Habitat, I was in government apartments. A lot of bad influence was around. It wasn't something that everyone wanted to stay in for the rest of their life. You always want that house, somewhere to go that that's safe. My mom, she's very inspiring, motivating, and she's a very hard worker. And she just decided to fill out the papers and see what it was about. Putting in the hours. Mom with the classes, she went to go build houses, and we were able to, make good grades. And so the whole family putting in the work and effort and achieving that goal and getting the house. All the hard work that my mom and, my family put into it was very good for us. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, we end up in a, Habitat house. I remember that first day in the house, just a special moment. Just seeing that, my mom's smile and face, and just seeing my little brother and sister, and the whole family was just excited just to move into a house finally, and it was just very inspirational and something that I would never forget. After we got the house, I started separating myself from the negative things, and I was able to come home and work on my craft as a student and as an athlete, and just be able to be a normal kid without worrying about something bad happening, and the surroundings of my life just changed.
And again, Kevin, I'm not dismissing anything that went on with him. If one of those 22 allegations are true, Deshaun Watson put himself at the best. He put himself in some situations that he shouldn't. At the worst, it's just not a good look. But this is a guy that has done good things in the community in addition to the bad things that he is going to deal with.
And Deshaun Watson, of course, maintains his innocence with this matter as well. And, while I might be someone right now that is conflicted with this whole circumstance and it doesn't sit right, he does maintain his innocence. And if he is innocent, we got to give that the legal system, even with the civil suits, the just time to kind of really, I guess, find out more information. We would be doing a disservice to just, even in the court of public opinion, to label someone as fully guilty before we have all of the information. It doesn't sit right, but we've also seen in that piece and the piece you guys showed earlier that Deshaun Watson is a big member of trying to give back to the community. He knows the circumstances he came up in and wants to help society and people that deal with similar things have better opportunities and better living situations. So, he's going to have to be out in the community and, kind of showing that here in Cleveland as well. And it's going to take time. It's not going to be an overnight type thing, but he seems like a guy that would be willing to do that. And we need to give him that time, but also not, turn a blind eye to such serious allegations as well. Dave, it's a difficult conversation. These are never fun, but they're needed to happen, and you need to see both sides, as we've kind of talked about and the show has kind of shown all day long. This is the type of conversations that need to happen so everybody understands.
Yep, give a full picture and let people decide, what it is, where the truth lies. Kevan Arnold, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much to the crew. You guys have a great rest of your day.
All right, Kevan Arnold, make sure you listen to him, Voice of the Land podcast. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Scheduled guests include Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.